Hello and thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be doing both inner and outer tie rod ends on both sides on my wife's daily driver, 2004 Honda Pilot. We've already got the vehicle up on jack stands with both front wheels removed. So let's get started. So I'm going to start here on the passenger side, which is where the main culprit of the issue is. I'm going to start with the outer tie rod end, which on the bottom has a clip cotter pin. So we'll remove that. There it goes. For that, I'm using a 3/4 impact socket on my impact gun because it's a nice tight fit. Then I'm going to spin the nut back on just where the end of the nut is flush with the end of that stud. So there's several ways to remove these. You can smack right there with a hammer. Hopefully it'll pop out. A little bit of heat applied to that joint or the stud sometimes helps with that if it's rusted in real bad. You also have the fork style separator that you slip in that joint and hammer it in and it'll press it apart. I'm going to use one of these, which is sold as a tie rod and pitman arm puller, and it slips over just like so, and then you tighten it to push on the stud and it just pushes it right out. And this is the best tool for not damaging these joints. In this case it doesn't matter because I'm going to be replacing these anyway, but I had never used one of these tools, so I bought one. We'll see how it goes. Some of these studs have a indent in the center that makes using these tools even better. This one does not. I don't know how well this is going to work. Wow, that was on there. I love it when things go out with a bang. Well, now I've got the nut so knackered up I can't get the nut off of there because the joint is spinning. Well, that would be the downside of using this when you don't have the indent in the end of the stud to hold it centered. Yep. So if you're using one of those tools, make sure you're on the center of the stud, not off to the side. In this case, for me, it slipped and dug in between the nut and the stud on the end, and now I've got an issue. Well, lesson learned, and I have a habit of learning my lessons the hard way, so let's see if the Sawzall will take care of that. No damage to anything else, so now we'll take the rest of this outer tie rod end off. There's a nut back here, a lock nut that you loosen up, and then you spin this off of the inner tie rod end by holding the hex shaped part right here. So I'm using a 14 on the inner tie rod end and a 3/4 on the lock nut. Now I'll use my trusty long reach pliers to get this outer boot clamp off. Now the latch for the inner boot clamp is right here, and I believe this is the type that's crimped on. And the best way I believe to remove these is to jam a flat bladed screwdriver into the joint and turn. Of course it's hard to see what I'm doing. There we go. There we go. So to get that inner tie rod end out, you'll need one of these inner tie rod removal sets. I went ahead and got the tool from Harbor Freight. I bought it because I like having tools when I need them. I'm not a big fan of rental tools. Sometimes you get, you know, ones that are beat up or missing pieces, or ones that don't fit. But you can get these as rentals pretty reliably. O'Reilly's, AutoZone, Advance, Princess Auto if you're in Canada, all carry them. Now I just need to figure out which of the adapters fits the tie rod ends on the vehicle. And this could be different depending on if they've been replaced or not, and depending on which brand. The ones you remove may be different from the ones you're installing. So there's a little lock washer back there. Thinking that might be keeping me from getting that tool on there. That was it. With that piece in place, you take the long flashlight looking piece and slip it on over. If you can do that without dropping the tool. Slip it on from the top side. Well, the tool slides on there, but not far enough. I think I need to some of that lip right there that is keeping this tool from seating fully onto the tie rod end. And that keeps the prongs of the tool from being centered enough to allow the flashlight looking base to slip on there. This is the downside of Harbor Freight tools sometimes. The right size tool with the wrong fit. That was definitely the culprit. Now that the tool's been properly relieved to slip on and have the prongs in line with the center, I'm able to get the flashlight, as I call it, on there without a problem. And that is why, another reason why I like buying my tools and buying them on the cheap. So I'm going to use a 1/2-inch breaker bar in the end of it. Hopefully this just comes right up. And there it is. One inner tie rod removed. Well, I don't mind working out in the weather, but the camera doesn't like it so much. And it started raining on me during that last clip, so I'll just set up the canopy. Now let's get that passenger side inner tie rod installed. So I'm using Master Pro replacements. Came with a new nut, a new washer, like it should, a little packet of grease, which I packed in to the joint, and it is the same size tool as the one that was used to take the old one off. Yeah, I guess it's easiest to put that into its little grooves before you start threading the tie rod in. Feels quite tight enough. Slip this boot back on. And after looking at it, I'm going to try reusing the clamp at the rear. So let's see how well this goes. So what I did was I stretched out the U-shaped part until you can hook it around the barb that's right there. And then I snuck my hammer in there, hammered it down against those barbs, make sure they're fully engaged. And then I opened up my flush cutters, slipped it around that just like so, squeeze, and it'll pull that boot clamp tight. Now I'll just slip this outer boot clamp on real quick. then we can install the outer. So the outer replacements are also Master Pro, and they use a nylon locking nut and no cotter pin. And these do have that little indent on the end of the shaft, or stud, that I was talking about earlier. We'll spin our new lock nut on. And spin the new tie rod end on. Use your nut underneath the car. Not really sure where I want to be at there, so let's guess it right about there. New nut goes on. The replacement is a 22 millimeter. So some of you might have caught it, but I forgot to bend the tab of the lock washer back down, so I had to take the boot back off and do that. Which really bums me out because now I have to fight that boot clamp back on again. So now we have one inner and one outer tie rod end complete on the passenger side. I'm going to do the driver's side off camera because it's the same thing, just flipped around. And then I'm going to show you how I'm going to do an alignment with some heavy objects, 2 long pieces of string, and a tape measure. And that's just to get it close enough to get to the alignment shop safely. So it is the next day, and today is Sunday, and we've got to make it to the alignment shop. I'm kind of lucky that there's an alignment shop that's even open on Sunday, so we need to get it down there. So I've set up a string between 2 stools. We're going to do one side at a time, and hopefully this will get us close enough. I've got 2 pieces of cardboard underneath each front wheel to make it easier to turn, and I've backed it up onto those pieces of cardboard, and then you center the wheel inside the vehicle. First, measure to a central location on each wheel, sitting at about 4 inches in the rear here, and going to the tire on each side. It's about 7/8 of an inch. Up here in the front, obviously we've got a major toe in. The car looks like Tommy from Rugrats right now, but we're gonna fix that. So we should be pretty well in line with the rear. We definitely need to bring that toe out a lot. Looking at an inch there, and an inch and 5/8 there, yeah. An inch and 5/8. So that's quite a bit. So now I'll start the car and turn the wheel all the way to the right so that we can get to that outer tie rod. So what we need to do here, because I never tightened the lock nuts because I knew I was going to be doing this anyway. We don't need to worry about loosening those, but this rod here is what we want to tighten into the outer tie rod end, thus shortening this and bringing that toe out. So there's the hex shaped piece on here that you grab and just start turning. It's a little farther back. So I'm going to tighten this up and then I'll check it again. Rear off the rim of this, I get 1 inch at the rear and 1 inch and 1/8 at the front. So we're really close, but I'm just going to repeat that process, turn the wheel, adjust it, turn it back, align the string, measure again, and see how it comes out. But that toe needs to come out just a little bit more. And remember, we're not trying to get this perfect. We just want it to be close enough to safely get us to the alignment shop. So now I get 1 inch and 1/16, both front and rear of the wheel, and we're looking a lot better. So I'm gonna call that good for this side. Tighten down that lock nut, move to the other side. It's the same process over there, just reversed. So that's gonna pretty much do it for this one. I've got to get down to the alignment shop before I lose my window. So I'm gonna bust through getting that other side as close as I can, tighten down both the lock nuts, and we'll be out of here. This string alignment's not good for camber or anything. It's only good for toe in and toe out. So it's just for these exact scenarios when you're replacing an inner or outer tie rod end and you need to get to the alignment shop safely, because right before it was way off and that would have been pretty scary to drive. So when we went to pick up the car, the technician who aligned it said he was rather impressed with how close I was able to get it with just a piece of string and a tape measure, within about 1/2 degree on each side. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you found this informative, and if not, there's plenty of other videos regarding a driveway alignment with a couple pieces of string and a tape measure floating around out there on YouTube. That's where I found it. If you did find this useful, hit that like button and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Catch you next time.